Okay, let's see. Do we have everything? That's off, that's off. That's turned off. That's turned on. The stream appears to be live. Let's pop out the chat real quick. It does appear to be live. Then I think we're ready to get started. Hello! Shadowcat back! We're back with Magic the Gathering. I am excited. I'm excited to be doing this. I want to do this. Although, I have to admit that while I am excited to do this, I have noticed that in comparison to the Warhammer 40k module, it's a lot less structured. I don't know exactly what we're doing today. I just know that I want to do something. When it came to Warhammer, when we were going through the through all the races and everything, it was really simple. We took one day to do the actual race to make the different species, and then we took a few streams to do their weapons and their armor, and a few streams to do their vehicles and other such things. And it was very structured. I knew what I was doing when I walked into that stream. This one? I have no idea what I'm doing today. So, why don't we start with what we did last time, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So the last time we sat down, we started looking at spells. Now, that's a bit, hard, because, when it comes to spells in Magic the Gathering, everything's a spell. And so that is a really, really broad category to go through. And how we're going to organize that, I'm still not sure. We did organize it somewhat into at least the different kinds of spells. And I suppose I can bring that up now. So let me just find my browser and find my spreadsheet. Here we go. All right. So let's bring in our spreadsheet, which we're already looking at spells, so, you know, that's good. And we will bring in our browser. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, when we looked at spells, spells refer to anything that is a permanent in general, and then it also includes instants and sorceries. So we broke it down. There are creature spells, artifact spells, battle spells, which are kind of niche, and we may use them, we may not use them. Instant sorceries and enchantments. Now, the last time we covered some of the just straight up burn spells, just straight damaging spells. And we talked about how we're going to do that. And just as a very quick recap for that, what we determined is that we're going to use the actual mana cost of the spell to determine the number of dice. And then however much damage the spell does is how much damage, or how many sides on the dice are going to get rolled. So, for example, if we took, say, a spell like Shock, Shock costs 1 red, and it does 2 damage, meaning that to use it in the game, it would be rolling a 1d2. It's a coin toss. If you call it, you get to deal max damage, otherwise you only deal 1. Or in this case, you can literally just go to roll 20 and roll 1d2. It works. However, Lightning Bolt also costs it costs 1 damage. It costs 1 mana, it does 3 damage, which means it's a 1d3. Things like that. So we got damaging spells done pretty well. Everything else, though, is going to be a bit hard. And part of that problem is going to be determining, first off, what some of these cards even do. But before we get into all of that, of course, we have to look at the chat and see who's here and say our hellos. So, looking at the chat, I see that JP is in the chat. JP, it's good to see you. You get a wave. Is it going to work? It works! It's good to see you, JP. JP says, yes, it also took a year to get through Warhammer. I know, but you know what? It was a year well spent, okay? Very proud of that module, and I still go back and tweak it from time to time. Actually, I was just looking at this last night, actually. And I know, we're deviating for just a second here, but we'll be back to this in a minute. I just wanted to share. So, I was looking at, the Adeptus Mechanicus because they are my absolute favorite people in the world. And I even had to get on Reddit and ask about this because I was thinking about it. And I was thinking about it because I was actually watching videos about the Adeptus Mechanicus. So, you know, one thing leads to another. Which one is it? Here. Alright, so, bringing this one back. This is a blast from the past. When we did the Adeptus Mechanicus, and I promise, if you're here for Magic the Gathering stuff, we're only going to be here a brief moment. One of the things that I forgot to do when we did the Adeptus Mechanicus is I never actually sat down to figure out exactly how many cybernetics you can have. So if you play a Tech Priest, which is a human Tech Priest, it's a race. I mean, you can do other things other than be a Tech Priest. When you level up, you get one free cybernetic augment equal to your level. Which is great, and, you know, I'm happy for them, and I love it, and I'm planning on actually rolling myself up a Tech Priest just because I want to. But that's all you really get, is it just you get a free cybernetic. However, if you play a Skitarii, you actually get bonuses on that. So, Child of the Waste, you get advantages on saves versus radiation. So you get to roll twice, take the better one. You also get a +1 on saves versus radiation for each cybernetic augmentation. How many is that? So I sat down and I actually wrote it out and I said, well, let's go through the list and see what you can augment. There's lots of arms. There's also a few hands. There's legs, and then there's feet. There's lung augments, throat augments, brain augments. There's eye augments, and there are some augments that affect one eye and some that affect both eyes. So technically that's 2. There are brain augments, spine augments. There's 2? I think there's 2 nose augments that I saw. There's a few heart augments, there's a couple of skin augments, there's a few ears augments, and the reason why it's ears, but it only says 1, is because I could not find a single augment that listed 1 ear. So it's always both ears all the time, and there's exactly 1 endocrine augment in the game. Now the fun thing about that is I totaled it up, and it's 20. Meaning that if you wanted to play as Skitarii, you could potentially, assuming that you got all the augments that you could, have a +20 versus radiation. Which I think is great. And it fits, because, I mean, a Skitarii, by the time you got to that point, I mean, you would be more machine than man anyway. So yeah, work does continue on these things behind the scenes. I'm still adding things as I think of them. I'm still tweaking things here and there. And you know what? Maybe one of these days I'll actually sit down and maybe do the characters on screen. Maybe I'll take the time to make my personal character using all of these stats. I don't know. Let me know what you think of that in the chat. Maybe we can do that on like a Saturday or something. Okay, but let's get back. And see, JP says, you rabbit holed yourself. It's like, nah, it's... Okay, fine, I did rabbit hole myself. But you know what? I enjoyed the trip. And JP also says, it's sorted by type. Maybe offense, defense, artifact, trap subcategories. I don't know yet. I just don't. Because here's the thing. When we look at instants and sorceries, instants and sorceries can inflict pretty much anything. I think what we're going to need to do is... no, now that I think about it, maybe I need to change the name of this stream. Maybe we need to actually go through the glossary of terms and determine what these things do before we get into the non-damaging spells. Because... where is it? Here we go. Magic the Gathering Wiki. I want... Stop jumping around. Rules? Here we go. Keyword abilities. This is the list that is probably going to be the longest and the most impactful on what we're doing here. Because these are... There's a lot. So, real quick, let's just read through them. There's a lot, but I think we can handle it. So, keyword abilities. Death Touch. Defender, Double Strike, Enchant, Equip, First Strike, Flash, Flying, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Intimidate, Land Walk, Lifelink, Protection, Reach, Shroud, Trample, Vigilance, Ward, Banding, Rampage, Cumulative Upkeep, Flanking, Phasing, Buyback, Shadow, Cycling, Echo, Horsemanship, Fading, Kicker, Flashback, Madness, Fear, Morph, Amplify, Provoke. I thought these were alphabetical. There's a lot more than I thought there were. Storm, Affinity, Entwine, Modular, Sunburst, Bushido, Soul Shift, Splice, Offering, Ninjutsu, Epic, Convoke, Dredge, Transmute, Bloodthirst, Haunt, Replicate, Forecast, Graft, Recover, Ripple, Split Second, Suspend, Vanishing, Absorb, Aura Swap, Delve, Fortify, Frenzy, Gravestorm, Poisonous, Transfigure, Champion, Changeling, Evoke, Hideaway, Prowl, Reinforce, Conspire, Persist, Wither, Retrace, Devour, Exalted, Unearth, Cascade, Annihilator, Level Up, Rebound, Umbra Armor, Infect, Battlecry. Oh my god, the list keeps going. Living Weapon, Undying, Miracle, Soulbound, Overload, Scavenge, Unleash, Cypher, Evolve, Extort, Fuse, Bestow, Tribute, Dethrone, Hidden Agenda, Outlast, Prowess, Dash, Exploit, Menace, Renown, Awaken, Devoid, Ingest, Myriad, Surge, Skulk, Emerge, Escalate, Melee, Crew, Fabricate, Partner, Undaunted, Improvise, Aftermath, Embalm. Who wants to go do a different module today? Who wants to go do a different module today? Let's do Pokemon instead. No? No Pokemon? Okay. Ascend, Assist, Jumpstart, Mentor, Afterlife, Riot, Spectacle, Escape, Companion, Mutate, Encore, Boast, Foretell, Demonstrate, Daybound and Nightbound, Disturb, Decay, Cleave, Training completed, Reconfigure, Blitz, Casualty, Enlist, Read Ahead, Ravenous Squad, Space Sculptor. Sounds like something out of RimWorld. Visit, Prototype, Living Metal, More Than Meets the Eye. For Mirrodin, Toxic, Backup, Bargain, Craft, Disguise, Solved, Plot, Saddle, Spree, Free Running, Gift, Offspring, and Impending. My god. Just going by the the sub-categorization here, the sub-listing, whatever you call that number after the period, 176 of them. Now, here's the thing. Some of these are not important. And I know that because looking at it, I know what this one is. I know this because, like, there's a set of Magic cards on my Christmas list. Apparently, Magic the Gathering did a crossover with Transformers, and me being the absolute fan of Transformers that I am, I want them all. And More Than Meets the Eye is specific, very, very specific to that specific set of like 24 cards. So, yes. And JP says More Than Meets the Eye. There's Transformers cards? Oh ho ho! Yes, there is. Thank you for that, rabbit hole, because I will always take the opportunity to look at these wonderful, glorious cards. Let's see, Magic the Gathering search. Here we go. I'm probably going to want to go to the advanced search. I'm probably going to want subtype transformer. Nothing. Okay, how about this then? Optimus Prime. Because I know I can find it that way. Oh, okay. They're legendary artifact creatures. They are vehicles. You know what? This is fine though. We'll just use this card as an example. So I want to send this to here. There we go. All right. So this is an example. This is Optimus Prime, because of course you got to have Optimus Prime. This came out in the set of all the Transformers cards. And you'll notice that the card, there's two of them. It's because this card is printed on both sides. On only one side has the actual mana cost on it. So Optimus Prime himself, my homeboy, he costs 3 plus blue, red, and white, because he is red, white, and blue. Obviously. However, the thing about him is he has more than meets the eye. It's right here. The text is really tiny. I don't know if you can read it, because I can barely read it. Let's be honest, I can't read it. I can only decipher the letters because I know they're there. At the beginning of each end step, bolster 1. And then they make it italics, and then I really can't read it. Okay, hold on. I gotta move closer here. Move the mic. Let's see. Choose a creature with the least toughness among the creatures you control and put a +1/+1 counter on it. Because that's what Optimus Prime does. He holds up the little guy. And when Optimus Prime dies, return it to the battlefield converted under its owner's control. What do you mean converted? Well, that's where the other side comes in. That's where he becomes a truck. So he's made out of living metal, which means he's a vehicle, but he doesn't need a crew. He's also a creature. He's got trample, because, let's face it, you don't want to get in front of a truck. And whenever you attack, bolster 2. The chosen creature, well, it's the creature with the least toughness, so kind of chosen for you, gains trample until the end of turn. When that creature deals combat damage to a player, convert Optimus Prime. So yeah, that's more than meets the eye. So yes, there are actually a lot of cards for Transformers, and no JP, it is not a fever dream. It's actually Secret Lab. They're the ones that do all the crossover stuff, and there's a whole bunch of them, which is why there's a lot of things in here that we're not gonna need. So, yeah. The question is, how are we going to get this list over into our spreadsheet? And I'm just going to try this. I'm going to try copying this over and just see what happens. Okay, let's copy that, and then we'll see what happens when I do this. I have a feeling I know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Okay, no, I really can't separate those. So we'll have to fix them as we go, I guess. We are going to default format these. then we're going to format paint. Just like that. Okay. That is a long list. So here's what I think we're going to have to do. Because any of these things can be granted by an instant, a sorcery, an enchantment, an ability, anything like that, we're going to have to go through and do this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go through and change the name of the stream. This is no longer going to be Spells 2. This is going to be Keywords. Because that's what we're doing now. Okay. So I'm actually going to do that, I think. And then we can use this to start actually working on these. So the first thing we have to do for each one of these... Actually, does it even matter? Do I need to delete that? I really don't need to. It's one of those things that I can do that side of the stream, I guess. We're going to have to go through each one of these keywords and see what they do and how we adapt it. Now, Death Touch should be easy, because Death Touch is not exactly a complicated ability. So, Death Touch is a static ability that causes any amount of damage dealt by the source of a creature to be lethal damage. Now, interestingly, there are limits to this. At least as far as I know. So, let's look at the rules. Because I want to make sure, static ability... creature with toughness greater than 0 has been dealt damage. Okay, no, actually it's right there in the description of it. So it causes any amount of damage dealt by the source to a creature to be lethal damage. So, this is why if a creature with Death Touch actually hits you as a player, you don't just automatically lose the game. However, any creatures touched by it, it's destroyed. So this should be easy. And the reason why I do believe it should be easy is because we do already kind of have rules for this. I could just translate it directly and say that any damage that this creature does is lethal damage. However, I'm not entirely sure if that's necessarily the way that I want to go. Instead, I want to come down here to magic items. Specifically, I want to look at magic weapons. Here we go. Because we already kind of have something for this. Where is it? I want... There it is. Vorpal. This is one of those coveted things in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. Finding a Vorpal weapon. That is just the chef's kiss. Everybody wants a Vorpal weapon. This potent and feared ability allows a weapon to sever the heads of those it strikes. Upon the roll of a natural 20, followed by a confirmed critical hit, the weapon severs the opponent's head as if it had one from its body. Although things like aberrations and oozes have no heads. Now, the problem is that this is on a critical hit. And Death Touch does not require a critical hit, it just happens. So perhaps this is the wrong way to go. Instead, what if we didn't do Vorpal? Let's go to spells, because there are spells that do this. Specifically, the one that I'm thinking of is one of the most feared spells in the game if you know how to use it. Finger of Death. So, Finger of Death. This spell instantly delivers 10 points of damage per caster level. If the target's Fortitude saving throw succeeds, it instead take... Oh, they changed it. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Dungeons & Dragons version. Maybe they tuned it down a little bit. It used to be that Finger of Death was just straight up death. You get a Fortitude save, otherwise you're just dead. Let me try something else. Let's just look for death. No, no, no. No, no, no. Really? Circle of Death kills 1d4 hit dice worth of creatures. Let's try that one. Circle of Death snuffs out the living force of living creatures, killing them instantly. It slays 1d4 hit dice worth of living creatures per caster level to a maximum of 20d4. Creatures with the fewest hit dice are affected first. Among creatures with equal hit dice, those who are closest are affected first. No creature of 9 or more hit dice can be affected, and the hit dice are not sufficient to affect a creature. Oh, and hit dice that are not sufficient to affect the creature are wasted. Okay, so just to simplify that, Circle of Death. This is one of those really kind of evil spells, because when it says hit dice, you have to understand that you as a player have levels. Okay, you start off the game as a level 1, usually, whatever you happen to be, and as you gain experience, you will gain levels. One of the things that you get as you level up is, in addition, you get more hit points. Now, you as a player look at your hit points as a pool. You see your hit points and you say, I have 14 or 23 or 67 or whatever hit points. However, from a mechanical standpoint, the game doesn't see it like that. The game knows that when you made your character, you automatically get 1 full hit dice. So if you're a wizard, you get a d6. If you're a fighter, you get a d8. If you're a barbarian, maybe you get I think you get a d12. And you get the full number on that dice. Every wizard starts off with 6 plus their constitution modifier. Every fighter, I think fighters are actually a d10. So every fighter gets 10 plus their constitution. Every barbarian gets 12. And then after that, you roll the dice. But whatever level you are, that's how many hit dice you've got. You got 1 for every level. Since monsters don't really have levels, they have hit dice. And so does everything else. Your commoner, like if you walked into town, a commoner would probably have like 1 hit dice, maybe, unless they were like specifically training for something. If they're just your typical commoner, I don't know how many hit dice they would really have. It's hard to tell. Because, I mean, that is kind of one of those things where it's never really been firmly established. One of the jokes that came out of Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition was that a single cat had the power to wipe out entire cities. Just one cat, one common domesticated house cat can wipe out an entire city. Why? Well, because when they were making Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the 2nd edition, they determined that all commoners just have 1 hit point. Makes it super easy. All commoners have 1 hit point. Okay? That's fine, except for one thing. Every cat deals 1d2 damage with either its scratch or its bite. Okay. So what you're saying is that every person has 1 hit point and every cat does 1 damage minimum. Meaning that a single cat could wander through town and just kill the entire population. You know, that doesn't work. It's a funny joke, and as far as I know, nobody ever went through and actually did that. But the point is that the population only had 1 hit point. So too, when you're playing with most civilians, most NPCs, the commoners, they only get 1 hit dice. So it's unlike Circle of Death, if you were to walk into the main market square and cast this, which by the way, it does require a verbal, somatic, and material component. However, if you're standing in the middle of a busy square, who's paying attention to you? You could say something, everyone else is talking too. No one would know the difference. A somatic spell, people are waving all the time, they're handing things to each other, who's going to notice you making gestures? Now, a crushed black pearl worth 500 gold pieces, that's harder to come by. But if you had it, you cast the spell. The range is 100 feet plus 10 feet per level. And if you max this out at 20 hit dice, that's 20 commoners that have to make a fortitude save or just die. Which means that, imagine you have a busy town center. This cloaked figure just walks into the middle of it. They say something to themselves, they wave their hand, they let this fine black dust fall from their hand onto the ground, and then people just fall over dead. That is the kind of instant death we're talking about when we need, or what we need for death touch. Now, as I stated in a last stream, every spell needs a failure state. Okay, it needs a way to fail. If it's a ray, you need to make a touch attack. If it's an auto hit, it needs to have some kind of save. So I think what we're going to do for the death touch is we're going to use the same thing as Circle of Death. And we're going to take from here. The only difference being that the Circle of Death is a fortitude save. It says fortitude negates, which I think is what we're going to do here. So when a creature is damaged, make a fortitude saving throw. Make a fortitude save. DC. Actually, you know, I don't even need to include the DC because we know what it is. Fortitude save versus death. And I need to make this aligned. There we go. And I should probably specify this because Magic the Gathering, everything is a creature. We had to specify, though, when a summoned creature is damaged, make a fortitude save versus death. Okay, we got that. And that should be pretty straightforward. It does mean that sometimes your Death Strike creature may not actually succeed. It's going to depend on exactly what they're attacking and what the fortitude on it is. How we're going to do that is, well, we're going to cover that when we get to summoned creatures, because we still need a system to translate a creature with only a few stats into actual existence. It's going to be tough. So let's move on. Defender. Defender is really simple. And I want to look up a spell. Because I want to see exactly how that spell is worded. Aura, spellcasting, cleric spell list. There is a spell called Sanctuary that is going to help us here, I think. Here we go. Sanctuary. Alright, so an opponent attempting directly to attack the warded creature, even when they target a spell, must attempt a will save. If the save succeeds, they can attack normally and is unaffected by the casting that spell. If the spell or the save fails, the opponent can't follow through with the attack, and that part of its action is lost. You cannot directly attack the warded creature for the duration of the spell. Okay, so how are we going to translate this? Because it's really simple in Magic the Gathering. Because the creature cannot be used to attack. However, it can still be used as a blocker. Wait, hold on. Hold on, I think I've got something here. I've got something here. This is going to be super simple. It's going to be super simple, and this is actually kind of brilliant. I want a feat here. I want a feat here. And it's going to be, I believe, a teamwork feat? No, I don't think it's going to be a teamwork feat. I think it's going to be... I think it's going to be called Bodyguard, but I'm not positive. Bolster, body control... Bodyguard. Body shield. Hold on, we'll take a look at both of these. Bodyguard. When an adjacent ally is attacked, you may use an attack of opportunity to attempt to aid another action to improve your ally's AC. You may not use the aid another action to improve their attack roll with this attack. So you may use an attack of opportunity, though. I don't know if that's necessarily what we want. So instead of bodyguard, where is it? I lost it. Here it is. Body shield. As an immediate action while you are grappling an adjacent creature, you make a grapple combat maneuver to gain cover against a single attack. No, that's not what I want either. Not what I want. I'm going to just search for shield. That's going to be a little bit hard because there's lots of shield feats. Body shield, no. Covering shield, no. Shield bash, no. See, like I said, there's lots of shield stuff. Tower shield, upsetting shield. No, now we're getting into mythic. Ally shield? That's a betrayal, though. But we'll look at it. Okay, ally shield. So you gain cover against an attack, and only that attack. If the attack misses you, but would have hit you if not for cover, the abettor becomes a target of the attack, and the attacker must make a new attack roll with the same modifiers against the abettor's armor class. So it allows you to put someone else in front of you. What we're looking for is kind of the opposite of that. We want a feat that'll allow you to actually put yourself in front of somebody else. Oh, PC Unicorn's in the chat. Hold on. You get a wave. Where is it? Here it is. Hello, PC Unicorn. And PC Unicorn says there is also a shield counter thing in Magic. I'm sure there's a counter for it because I'm sure there's a counter for literally everything in Magic. I wonder, sacrifice. Sacrificial Adept Potency Ritualist, and that's it. Okay, I thought there might have been like a sacrificial block or something. Let's search for block. Block chakras. No, not that. Okay, so bodyguard may be the only thing that really fits here. The thing is, though, it says that you may use an attack of opportunity to attempt and aid another action to improve your ally's AC. What really bothers me there is attack of opportunity is a very, very specific action. It's one of these things that is like constantly asked for. It's actually kind of the bane of most DMs because a smart player will try to get an attack of opportunity everywhere. And like, I know there's going to be a GM out there that's going to hate me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You as a player should be asking for an attack of opportunity every single time. Like, if you can find the smallest justification for your attack of opportunity, you should be doing it. It is annoying. It is going to piss off your GM. But it is your right as a player to ask, and it is to your benefit as a player to take every opportunity you can. So, provoking an attack of opportunity. There are a lot of things that can actually provoke an attack of opportunity. So, it is a single melee attack. Yes, we got that. Combat reflexes, an additional attack of opportunity. Saving throw. Okay. Is it going to list all the things? No, it's really not. And this is why I tell you, you should be asking about this all the time, because it's kind of muddy. So, two kinds of actions can attack an attack of opportunity: moving out of a threatened square or performing certain actions. Now, see, moving out of a threatened square is easy. If you are engaged in melee combat and you try to leave melee combat, you have two options. Number one, you are allowed to take a free 5-foot step without provoking an attack of opportunity. This means that if you are fighting with, say, a weapon that has reach, say you're using a long spear, well, the long spear has an attack increment of 10 instead of 5. And specifically, you cannot use that long spear at less than 10 feet. The pointy bit is out there, okay? It's not halfway between. So you are allowed to take a 5-foot step back, and then you can stab. However, your opponent can also just take a 5-foot step closer on their turn. 5-foot steps are free, 5-foot steps are safe, but 5-foot steps are also not going to get you out of danger. The other, as they say right here, we just covered the 5-foot step. The other is a withdraw action. Withdraw is a full round action. You move at twice your normal speed, so essentially it's a double move action, and you do not provoke an attack of opportunity. So those are the ways you can move. If you do anything else, though, or most importantly, if one of the NPCs does anything else, you are entitled to an attack of opportunity. Otherwise, performing a distracting act. Some actions, when performed in a threatened square, provoke attacks of opportunity as you divert attention from the battle. On the table, actions in combat, it notes the many actions that that provoke an attack of opportunity. So let's take a look at that. Actions in combat. Does it provoke an attack of opportunity? Making a ranged attack, yes. If you try to use a bow and arrow in melee combat, you're getting attacked. If you try to attack unarmed, they have a sword or a dagger or something, and you don't. That's an attack of opportunity. Aid another. Maybe. Again, it gets fuzzy. Casting a spell. Doesn't matter what kind of spell. If it has a standard action casting time, it provokes attack of opportunity. Drinking a potion, or applying oils, or technically applying poisons. If you have to apply it, it provokes an attack of opportunity. Lighting a torch takes an attack of opportunity. Reading a scroll. Stabilizing a dying friend. Also see the heal skill. Using any skill that takes a standard action usually provokes an attack of opportunity. Again, this is where it gets muddy. Using spell-like abilities. Maybe you're not a wizard, but you have an ability where you can wave your hands and create an effect. That's going to provoke. If you just move, it's an attack of opportunity. Controlling a frightened mount, attack of opportunity. Loading a hand crossbow or light crossbow. PC Unicorn says even if you're a monk, being unarmed is kind of their thing. Actually, no, and it specifically says on the page for monks that they do not provoke attacks of opportunity when they attack. They are. I want to say that they are the only exception, but I also believe that if you can take a feat that will allow you to attack unarmed. I think it's some kind of brawler feat. Loading a crossbow, yes, attack of opportunity. Moving an object, you're moving an object, you're not fighting. That's an attack of opportunity. Picking up an item, if it's on the ground, yes, is an attack of opportunity. You're bending over to grab something. You're lucky if all they do is attack. Sheathing your weapon, yes. For that matter, drawing your weapon sometimes. Standing up from being knocked down, yes, is an attack of opportunity. By the way, if you don't stand up, you lose your dexterity bonus, and they get a bonus on their attack rolls. It's a +4 if you're on the ground. So, take the attack of opportunity. Retrieving an item from your backpack is an attack of opportunity. Now we get to full round actions. Deliver a coup de grace. You're executing somebody you're not fighting. That's an attack of opportunity. Escaping from a net. Lighting a torch. Loading a heavy or repeating crossbow. Locking or unlocking your weapons from a locked gauntlet. Preparing to throw a splash weapon. So, potions. Running. Anything that takes one full round. So you get what I'm saying here when I say that, and if an attack of opportunity is available. Now it does say here, if you aid somebody performing an action that would normally provoke an attack of opportunity, then the act of aiding another also provokes an attack of opportunity as well. PC Unicorn says, so dropping the soap is an attack of opportunity. It all makes sense now. That's why they put it on a rope, Don't drop the soap. Okay, so I don't think that the bodyguard is necessarily what I want for this. Although it does sound like it may be the best I can get. It does just say when an adjacent ally is attacked, you may use an attack of opportunity. I do think that this is about the best that we're going to get here. It says when they're attacked. So let's just take it rules as written. Okay, rules as written. Only happens when they're attacked. You may use an attack of opportunity to attempt the aid another action. We look at aid another. So, aid another is a roll. You must make an attack roll versus AC 10. If you succeed, your friend either gains a +2 bonus on their next attack roll against that opponent, or a +2 to AC against that opponent's next attack, your choice. I think that Bodyguard is the way to go here. If it triggers on attack, it's an attack of opportunity. You only get one attack of opportunity per round. Usually. However, it says the prerequisite here is combat reflexes. It says you gain an additional number of attacks of opportunity per round equal to your dexterity bonus. However, we don't need to give combat reflexes. We could just give Bodyguard. Because generally speaking, if you use a creature to defend, that creature is tapped, and unless it is untapped for some reason, it cannot be used again. So we're not going to give combat reflexes, we're just going to give Bodyguard. So Defender is going to be creature has the Bodyguard feat. Alright, next is Double Strike. This is so super easy. Creature has 2 attacks per round. Alright, that's not a big deal either, because most players will get multiple attacks per round. If they commit a full round action to their attack. I mean, we're not on... Let me just look at a fighter here. Because, like, that's what they do. Fighters fight. Starting at level 6, fighters will get an additional attack per round. So, if they commit their full turn to attack, then they can make 2 attacks. The first attack gets a +6 modifier, the second one only gets a +1. Not a big deal until you start getting into those higher levels. At level 20, that fighter is going to get a +20 on its first attack, a 15 on its second, a 10 on its next, and a 5 on the last one. But that's still 4 attacks per turn. PC Unicorn says Double Strike also contains the first strike component. Yes, it does. However, not everything is going to not everything is going to fit. First strike is one of those things that I don't think is going to fit, and that's because, technically speaking, every creature already has first strike. And let me explain. In Magic the Gathering, when combat happens, everything is resolved more or less simultaneously. And I know, when I just said that, I just triggered a whole bunch of Magic the Gathering players. I know. Let me explain. While you, at a microcosm level, have to establish what individual actions happen in what order during this event, the fact is that when you tap your card, they tap their card, you play your spells, they play their spells, you use whatever abilities you need to. Once you have established all the things that happen, every single thing that you've just established happens all at once. Okay? Everything happens in this instance between these 2 cards. No! Unicorn, put the pitchfork down. Put the pitchfork down. I explained myself, okay? You can't pitchfork me if I explained myself. but everything happens immediately between those creatures. I mean, we have to keep in mind that, like, everything, or every round in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder is 6 seconds. There's a lot that can happen in 6 seconds, yes. However, 6 seconds is also a really, really short amount of time. I mean, in terms of... the fight is usually a very short amount of time. Even if you take into consideration the entire fight, if the entire fight that you're in takes 10 rounds or less, that is 1 minute of combat. Now, some of the people that are in the chat right now are part of my Star Trek game, which, by the way, right now is a great time to shout that out. If you want to play with us, all you have to do is join the Discord down below. Go to the Behind the Screens channel and let me know what your availability is. Let me know what your availability is and your interest is, actually. Both of those, because we have multiple games that we can do. I will try to find a group for you to play in. Okay, I'm up here playing Matchmaker. But anybody who is in my Star Trek game has done boarding actions, where they fought a ship in space, they docked with that ship, they forced open the airlocks, they went through the ship, and they cleaned it out. Now, while combat takes a really, really long time, you have to understand that if we were to actually play through the events in real time, the entire boarding action took about 2 minutes, maybe, if that. People went in, they forced the doors open, shots were fired back and forth, and within 2 minutes, the other crew, the pirates, were dead. It's really, really fast. It's one of those things that I'd always wanted to see, like, animated. Like, can somebody take a battle from a Dungeons & Dragons game or something, and then just animate it in real time? You already have the log of every action that was taken, so you know what you have to do. So the storyboarding is going to be minimal. You just have to set up your angles and everything, character positioning, stuff like that. And even character positioning you're going to know because it was probably done in a map. So you need to set up your visual angles and all of that and animate it. And I'd love to see, like, this 2-hour or 3-hour combat session from a Dungeons & Dragons game animated into, like, a 2-minute fight. I think that, number one, it'd be amazing to watch, and number two, it'd really put things into perspective. So, yeah, when you're talking about combat in Magic the Gathering, everything is resolved more or less instantaneously, where first strike is really, really important. However, in Pathfinder, every creature is going to have its own turn. It'll have its own turn to use its own abilities and to attack and everything else. And if the creature decides it's going to attack that creature over there, well, that is, by default, first strike, because the other creature doesn't necessarily get to hit back. The only way that we can actually make first strike a thing is if we were to give them some kind of attack on someone else's turn. So if that creature were to be attacked, they would get to attack first while on the defensive. Like I just said, on the attack, they've already got first strike. So, why don't we take a look? Actually, do we want to look at that now? Actually, we can. Where is first strike? Where is first strike? It's in here somewhere. I know it is. First strike. There it is. Oh, it was literally just 2 down. Okay. We'll skip down for just real quick. first strike. So there is an actual swordsman term for this. It's called riposte. And I only see this one. What is it? This is crane style, crane wing dodge, improved unarmed strike. Okay, I think this is for monks. So that's not going to work. And even then, that's when you're fighting defensively, so that's not exactly what we want. Maybe I don't need a feat for this one. I can probably just rule this one myself. So again, an attacking creature already has first strike by default. So instead, when a creature with first strike is attacked, make a free attack against the attacker before their attack resolves. Okay. I don't think that I can simplify that any further. So if you have a creature that has first strike, if it is attacked, they get a free attack against the attacker. So if they've got an elf and I've got a goblin, my goblin has first strike. The elf comes in with a sword and goes to attack. My goblin, because it is being attacked, gets to just make an attack back at the elf first. Number one, this fulfills everything that we need for first strike. So we've got that. Number two, it does have a failure state, because it is an attack roll, which means that it can miss. It means that a creature with first strike is going to be extremely dangerous on the field, but it's not going to be undefeatable. Also, if you're attacking a creature, with, say, a ranged attack, it may not even be an issue. And we haven't gotten to that yet. However, right down here is reach. Now, reach in Magic the Gathering means that a creature is allowed to block anything with flying. However, for our purposes, we need it to be a lot more general. And so any creature that has reach will probably have a ranged attack. And that means that it could potentially be able to stop creatures with first strike without having any kind of retaliation. We haven't gotten there yet. We'll discuss that more when we get there. Let's see. PC Unicorn says, what about when you strike, it gets its next attack first if it chooses to? I'm not entirely sure I fully understand what you mean by that, but I think what we've got here is better. What I'm curious about, though, is whether I should limit that to once per turn. Technically speaking, though, if a creature with first strike could also block multiple creatures at once, that first strike applies to every creature that it blocks. And I swear I've seen a card like that before. I don't know if I have one or if I saw somebody else play one. But First Strike would apply to every defender, so no, I don't think I would limit it to one once per turn. Okay, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, enchant. I don't know that I necessarily need rules for enchant, because it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and put it in here anyway. What does Magic the Gathering say about enchant? Stop jumping around. It restricts what an aura can target and be attached to. Aura is an enchantment type. I mean, it's enchant. I don't know what I need to say here. I guess I can just say the effect attaches to a target, or it attaches to target specified. The same thing also applies to equip. So equip also, the effect attaches to target specified. Because they're basically the same thing, the only difference is an enchantment is attached to the creature directly and becomes part of the creature. Equipment, not so much. If you happen to summon, say, a Leonin Scimitar, and you equip it to a creature, when that creature dies, it drops the sword. Whereas the enchantment goes with the creature when it dies. So I should probably put that here. Effect attaches to target creature. Equipment is dropped on creature death. Okay. So we got that. Next is Flash. Flash, if I remember right, Flash is a creature term. A Flash means that you can play a creature anytime you can play an instant. So it allows the card is printed on to be cast anytime you can cast an instant. Alright, it does not specify creatures, so I guess Flash must occur on other cards as well. Yeah, the earliest card of Flash is the King Cheetah from Visions. That's going to be a creature, obviously. So the Ashcoat Bear, again, it's a creature. It has Flash. Let's see. Grants Flash to... Oh, these are cards that grant Flash. There's enchantments. There's instants. Artifacts, lands... Yeah, these are all cards that grant it, though, not that necessarily benefit from. However, I still think this is really easy. I don't need to specify each individual card, I just need to specify the effect. So, Flash, anything that says Flash, this spell can be cast as an immediate action. Simple. So anything that is an instant is already an immediate action. I think we already specified that over here. Yes, we did. Instants are immediate actions. And so anything that has Flash on it is also an immediate action. Next, flying. This one is going to be a little bit more complicated because flying is more complicated in Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. So in flying, in Magic the Gathering, flying is just flying. There's nothing to it. Your creature is either flying or it's not. Okay, there's no fly speed, there's no maneuverability, there's nothing like that. What we're gonna do here is I think that we're gonna need to... We need to establish two things. We need to establish a fly speed, and we need to establish a fly maneuverability. So let's take a look at flying. Okay, here we go. So this is flying. You cannot take this skill without some natural means of flight or gliding. Creatures can also take ranks in flight if they possess a reliable means of flying every day, either through a spell or other magical manner, such as a druid's wild shape. This is why most players never have to worry about fly, unless they're playing either a very unique race or they're playing a magic caster. I mean, wizards need to learn fly. Also, it also applies to flying mounts, so if you're a ranger and you have a giant bird, you can learn it then. Okay. Flying maneuver DCs, I'm not worried about that right now. Check common uses, don't care. Wind. Ah, here we go. So, these are... Fly speeds are just speed. We can make that whatever we want. However... we have maneuverabilities here, and maneuverabilities are as follows. They are clumsy, poor, average, good, and perfect. Now, what you can do with each one of these is... it depends. So, for example, hovering. Where's hovering? Hovering is normally a DC 15 if you want to... if you want to just stay there where you're at. However, and I don't know where it says it, it doesn't matter. I know for a fact that if you have perfect maneuverability, you do not need to make a check to hover. So, we need this. Now, one of the things... let's see, one of the things that... Okay, this is something that I was going to get into with the creatures, but I think we need to take care of this now, is we need to write down sizes. So I need to open up a new spreadsheet here. And I'm going to just call this one creatures. The reason why I need to do this is because we need to write this down. It's going to be important. So size... Ooh. Format painter. Select everything. Oh, please don't tell me that I just crashed it. No, I might have just crashed the spreadsheet. We'll give it a second here. Size is going to be important. It's going to be important for this, and I'm going to see if I can find that. So, card types. Stop jumping around. I hate this. Frickin' ads. Let's see. Card types. I think we need to go to permanents. creatures. Here we go. So, history of power creep, everything else. Subtypes, friendly to creatures. Where was it that it was discussed about size? Ah, here we go. Small, medium, large. So the Mystery Booster Test card, Scale Destruction, defines small creatures having total power and toughness of 4 or less, medium creatures of having 5 to 8, and large creatures of having 9 or more. We're going to go ahead and we're going to expand on that. And yeah, it looks like I've crashed the browser. It's no longer responding. Okay, well, nothing I can do for it. Hopefully we didn't lose that much. Oh wow, that just killed all of my spreadsheets. I had 3 of them up. That is just an impressive amount of screwed up. Start recovery. Well, if I have to retype some of this stuff, at least I'll figure it out. Alright, let's move this over here. And... okay, yeah, so we got to type in some stuff again. First strike, alright, we know this one. So... when a creature is attacked, make an attack against the attacker before their attack resolves. And Flash, of course, cast this spell as an immediate action. Okay. Enchant and equip, I'll do it later. They're not important right now. JP says, spreadsheet down! Spreadsheet down! Yes! We need a new movie. You listening to me, Hollywood? We need a new movie. Saving Ryan's spreadsheet. Okay, so... we're still going to need this. Call it creatures. And if I can't do the entire sheet like that, I can at least do a large part of it. So we'll go with the Format Painter again. And we're just gonna, boom, like that. Should be more than enough space. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So we're going to, I believe it says that this is tied to power. Oh, total power and toughness. So creature size is going to equal power plus toughness. And so we're going to need P plus T size. And then, because we're going to have... actually, you know what? I may just put a reference here. I may just do that. So for flying, sea creatures. So fly maneuverability. And let's see. We also need the fly speed. Now, that's going to be a little bit difficult. And the reason I say it's going to be difficult is because fly speed is generally its own thing. It's not usually tied to anything. And we have very limited information to work with. We need a system here that is going to work with the numbers we have available. And the numbers we have available for Magic the Gathering is essentially just 3. So we have mana cost, power, toughness. Now, we're going to get into some other things later on because we still need to have ability scores for this thing. We need to have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. A lot of that, I think, is going to be race-based once we get into it. However, fly speed. I think what I want to do is this. I think what we're going to do is the fly speed is probably going to be equal to their mana cost. So this is going to be 0 to 4. This is going to be 5 to 8. No, did we not? Format cells. No, it's still set to number. Five to 8. 9 to 12. 13 through 16. And how far up do I have to go on this one? So we've got small, medium, large, huge. After huge is gargantuan, I think. I want rules, I want combat, and I want space reach. Pretty sure it's gargantuan, then colossal. Yep, huge, gargantuan, then colossal. Gargantuan, colossal. And so this is going to be 17 through 20, and then 21 plus. Now, getting into those numbers is not actually going to be that hard, because that means that if you manage to summon a 10-10 creature, or for that matter, not even a 10-10 creature, a 9-9 creature, it would be gargantuan. Which may not scale quite as well, but we'll work with it for now. Now, here's the problem. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 5 flies, so it's going to be perfect, good, average, poor, and clumsy, and then it's going to have to stay clumsy here. And then we're going to get to fly speed. Now, fly speed, I think, is going to just be converted mana cost. And what is that going to do for us? I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust these. So that means that if I have a small, like, little bird, like one of the cards that I have is the Sage Owl. The Sage Owl is not exactly an impressive card. It has Scry 4. It's a 1/1 flying owl. It's an owl, of course it flies. It costs 2. And it's a 1/1. Because it's a 1/1, that means it has a total power and toughness of 2. That makes it a small bird. Which, you know, bigger than your typical owl, I guess, but still, it's a small animal. It also means it has perfect flying, and its converted mana cost, because it costs 1 and blue, its converted mana cost is 2. What I should do is converted mana cost times 10, actually. So that means that my owl would be able to fly 20 feet per round. Which makes sense. That's perfectly normal for a bird, I think. For an owl? I don't know. How fast do owls usually fly? Let me ask the Googles. How fast does... Can I type? Does an owl fly? Owls are not fat. Well, that's the AI overview, but from the AdirondackWildlife.org, great horned owls they're not fast flyers. They have a top speed of about 40 miles an hour. So for an owl in combat, being able to fly 20 feet, I think that's good. Now, what does that mean for something like a dragon? I know. Here's a dragon I know just off the top of my head. Killinmouth dragon. It's one of the first dragons I ever got. Okay? Look at it. That's a scary dragon. The Killinmouth dragon is a 5/5. It has Amplified 3. If you have other... Oh god, I have to work on Amplify 2. No. That's not going to be fun. It is flying, obviously. So it is a 5/5. That means it's a total of 10. Because it's 10, that makes it a large dragon. Alright? And a large dragon means it's going to take up 10 by 10. Well, yes, it'll be a 10 by 10 dragon. Which, you know, as far as dragons go, is actually not that hard. Or not that big. It's kind of like a juvenile dragon. However, it costs 7 to play. That means that this thing would actually have a fly speed of 70 feet. Now, is that reasonable? Well, I don't know. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the bestiary and compare that with other dragons. Sorted alphabetically, by terrain, by type. Dragons. Dragons are their own type. It's a Killinmouth dragon, it's a red dragon, so let's compare that with other red dragons. Oh, chromatic dragons. Brown, gray, orange, pink, purple, yellow. What are these? Since when do those colors exist? Okay, dragon, outer, where's just... Ah, here we go, true dragons. Black, blue, green, red, white. By the way, you ever notice that those are like the colors? Swamp, island, forest, mountain, plains. I mean, come on, how perfect is that? Alright, so, red dragon. First off, let's see what we have, or what our best comparison is. Age categories. Let's start with a juvenile. How big are you? The space reach on a juvenile dragon is 10 feet, so they are large. All right, let's take a look. So speed. The speed of a juvenile red dragon is 40 feet on the ground, 200 feet if they're in the air. I was worried about overestimating. I have greatly underestimated. Our Killing-Mouth dragon here is actually exceptionally slow. However, this juvenile red dragon has poor maneuverability. Our Killing-Mouth has average. So it balances out. I think this is a very good system. What else we got? I don't know. What other cards do I have? I've got a Shoreline Ranger. Here we go, Shoreline Ranger. So this card, it's a bird soldier, it's got flying, it's got island cycling, which I don't know what we're going to do with that. It's a 3/4, so it's a total of 7. 7 is going to put it into the medium category. However, it costs 6 to play, which means it would have a good maneuverability at 60 feet per round. I think that works out really well. I think this is a good system. I like this system. I think this is good. Yep, I'm sticking with it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Format the cell. We'll go to alignment. We'll put it in the middle. There we go. All right, I'm happy with it. So flying is done. Haste. Haste is next. Haste is going to be super easy. So, summoned creature shares the Planeswalker's initiative and acts immediately next. Super simple on that one. Haste creatures get to attack immediately, and so this means that if you summon a creature with haste, as soon as you're done with your turn, your creature gets to go next. Okay, next is hexproof. This one's going to be a little bit tougher, I think. Maybe. Hexproof is an evergreen keyword ability, prevents a permanent or player from being the target of spells or abilities played by other opponents. There's no good way of really doing that, because technically hexproof means you can't target it with spells or abilities. But you can still use it to block. You can still use it to attack. So it's not under the effect of Sanctuary like we saw before. However, we could still use that as a basis. Now, because you can still defend with it, and because your creature can still die from it, it doesn't seem from a practical standpoint that if you actually enter your creature into combat, there's anything stopping the other creature from hitting it. Like, your creature may have hexproof, meaning the other creature can't cast a spell on it or use one of its abilities. However, if you were to drop them into a pit fight, the other creature still can't use its abilities against it. but there's nothing to stop that creature from grabbing a sword and just impaling your creature. So hexproof isn't protection. What I think we're going to do is we're going to borrow from... We're going to borrow from Sanctuary, and we're going to say that we're going to need a will save to target creature with a spell or spell-like ability. Now, I phrase it that way specifically because that's what we have in Pathfinder. Over here, it says being the target of spells or abilities played by opponents. That also includes their creatures. So if we consider that everything played by the spell or the planeswalker is a spell, anything done by a creature must be a spell-like ability. For example, every wizard can learn Dancing Lights. It's a cantrip. Every wizard already knows it, it's just a matter of whether or not they use it. However, if you play as an elf, or I believe specifically a drow, they have Dancing Lights as a spell-like ability. The spell is the same. The difference is that a wizard has to have a spell book and they have to memorize it to cast it, whereas a drow can just do it. And so that should cover all of the right bases. That also means that if you're not playing a planeswalker, you're just playing a regular wizard or something, and you want to target a creature with magic missile, you would have to make a will save versus the planeswalker's DC to actually target that creature. Alright, so I think that's fine. Next is Indestructible. This is one that I gotta admit, I have mixed feelings about Indestructible. I do. The problem with Indestructible is that it's a little bit too overpowered. And I say this in terms of both games. To put something that is just strictly indestructible into the game, I think is a mistake. The same is true of indestructible cards. So in Magic the Gathering, an indestructible creature cannot be destroyed by combat damage. Period. Or anything that has a destroy effect. So if they play an artifact creature, or even just an artifact, and you have the spell Shatter, it doesn't work if the artifact is also indestructible. So if it does damage, or it has the word destroy in it, Indestructible cancels all of that out. It is incredibly overpowered in the card game, which is why it does tend to be a little bit more rare, but regardless, it's incredibly overpowered. So let's think about this. When we think about destroy, there's two things that we need to really consider. Number one is straight up damage. Okay, so can a creature with indestructible be killed by damage? Technically, no. Does that make it immortal? Also, no. There's nothing to say that an indestructible creature is immortal. So I think what we're really talking about is just a flat out a flat-out damage reduction, as in damage just doesn't affect it. You can't hurt it, you can't harm it, you can't sunder it. Well, damage reduction is a thing. And so we could go that way. The other way that I think we can go is just... I mean, we could translate it directly. If we just looked at it and said that the creature takes no damage from attacks. I mean, that might work. I don't like it, but it would work. I mean, maybe? I don't know. Now see here, this is what I'm thinking of. If we just made it so that the creature was indestructible, period. One of the things that we have to consider is how this affects the world outside of combat. See, when you're playing Magic the Gathering, you are sitting at a table, and this table represents a battlefield, okay? However, the world that you're playing in does not exist outside of this battlefield. And once the game is over, once somebody has either won or lost, you pick up your cards, you shake hands, you walk away, and the world no longer exists. That doesn't work in Pathfinder. The world is persistent. It exists, and the things that you do have consequences. If you can summon an indestructible creature, what is there to stop you from summoning an army of these things? And just marching into the next town? See, that's what I have a problem with. Did we put a limit? No, I didn't put a limit on the number of creatures you can have. We have a limit for how much mana you get per turn, how many spells you can cast per day, which is kind of going to limit the number of creatures that you can cast, and the number of spells that you know. So technically speaking, let me find an indestructible card. Advanced search. I want a keyword. Community rating, mark, artist, power, toughness. Where would it be? Let's see. PC Unicorn says indestructible. No damage from attacks would work. That's fine. Things that can defeat indestructible. That's not how you spell defeat. Yes, I'm going to be that person. Indestructible are exile. I know that one. And we're going to get to exile. -1/-1 counters. Okay, that's good to know. And sacrifice affects enchantments that neutralize, like, pacifism. Well, yeah, pacifism, it's not actually destroying the creature, though. It's just stopping it. So really the only things that we're really seeing there, though, because sacrifice is dependent on the planeswalker that summoned it. So exile and -1/-1s. Meaning that if you're a planeswalker and you were to just march one of these things into town, what is there to stop you from just literally having an indestructible army? The only thing that I can see stopping it, and this is why I want to find an indestructible card, and I can't find it. Flavor text. hand modifier, life modifier. No, I don't. How do I search for this? Here? Indestructible. Search. No, that's not it. Is it because I spelled indestructible wrong? Shield of Cauldra. Let's see. The equipped creature has indestructible. Let me copy and paste this. That way I know that it won't. Or I know that I can't have misspelled it this time. Pretty sure I spelled it right. Indestructible. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I spelled it correctly. Nope, I'm doing this the wrong way. It's not flavor text. It's not mana value. It's not a type. How the hell do I search for this? No, I don't want that. What am I going to search for it? Let's just find out what happens if we just search for it. We got exactly one thing. The indestructible aura. Okay, that doesn't help at all. This sucks, okay? This really sucks. How come I can't search this? I wonder. Rules text? Would that work? Search. Oh my god, we found it! Okay, now we can finally use some of these as, we can finally use these as references. Okay. So, Adamant Will is an instant. I don't really want to see the instants, I want to see the actual creatures. Here we go. So the Adonto Vanguard. These are vampire soldiers. As long as the Adonto Vanguard is attacking, it gets +2/+0. Pay 4 life. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Not exactly what I was going for, but I think this is a good example. Oh, and PC Unicorn says the Dark Steel Mirror. The Dark Steel Mirror. Why didn't I think of that? I love mirrors. Now I feel stupid. Hold on. Where is it? Wait a minute. Hold on. What did I just see? What did I just see there? BRBO. Boromir, Warden of the Tower? Okay. See, now remember when we were talking about the Transformers? Yeah, they did a whole bunch of crossover sets. This is from the Lord of the Rings set. Hold on. Vigilance. Whenever casts a spell, if no mana was spent, counter that spell. Sacrifice Boromir, Warden of the Tower. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. The ring tempts you. Okay. I was going to say, you cannot tell me that Boromir is indestructible. I saw Lord of the Rings. Boromir is very destructible. I mean, I saw it, I read it a long time ago, but I did read it. He is very destructible. PC Unicorn says, sent one in Discord. Okay, hold on a second. Let me check that. I'm not putting that one up on the screen. Oh, it's the Dark Steel Mirror again. I was heading there anyway. We'll get there. We'll get there. C D. Hold on. Dark Steel Axe, Dark Steel Brute, Dark Steel Citadel, Colossus. Pretty much anything that says Dark Steel is indestructible. The Dark Steel Colossus, I think, was my first introduction to it because, damn. We'll get to that. Dark Steel Mirror. Here we go. So the Dark Steel Mirror is a 0/1. It costs you 3 to play, and it is indestructible. So I mean, there's nothing much to it. And what I want to see though is I want to go back to that Colossus. The Dark Steel Mirror is cool. I like him. Not as useful, but it's a perfect blocker because it can block forever. At least, you know, it could in it can in Magic the Gathering. In Pathfinder, it's not so much the perfect blocker, but you can have several of them. However, I mean, to be fair, the Dark Steel Mirror, while it's not going to be the perfect blocker in Pathfinder, imagine it doesn't have any attack. And because it has a 0, it's not going to be very strong. But still, I mean, I don't know, we'll have to work on that. But anyway, Darksteel Colossus. This is one of the most terrifying creatures you will ever see in Magic the Gathering, okay? This card right here is terrifying. The only thing that would make this thing more terrifying would be affinity. And there are cards to give it affinity. So, let's take a look. This is the Darksteel Colossus, and this is basically the poster child for Indestructible. It is an 11/11 creature, which, by the way, 11/11. Converted mana cost is 11. Well, it's because it's colorless. But if we add its power and toughness, it's 22. If we come back and look at creatures, this thing is colossal. Okay? It is colossal. If we come back to this. Now, it is a humanoid, so it's tall, not long. It occupies a 30-foot space. That is six. I don't know if I actually have if I have squares turned on here. I don't know. I don't think I do. Hold on. Let me turn squares on for a moment. Edit. Grid. Save. Close. So, Darksteel Colossus is going to take up an area. Rectangle. That looks a bit like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? That is the Darksteel Colossus. And just so we can put this into context, it is 30 feet tall. It has a natural reach of 30 feet. So let me get back here. This is the Colossus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is its threatened area. Remember we discussed earlier attacks of opportunities? If you were to just say move inside of the threatened area of another creature, This is its threatened area. And by the way, that's you. You are a medium-sized creature. This is the Darksteel Colossus. And it's indestructible. I cannot... I don't know how to better put this into perspective, how absolutely terrifying this Colossus is. Now, here's the problem that I see. By the time you can cast this thing, you would have to be level 11. You could cast 33 of these things per day. That is a problem. That is a big problem. That is an insurmountable problem that breaks the entire game. One Colossus would be enough to lay waste to an entire city. If you could summon 33 of these things, we're going to need to put some kind of limit on it. And to make it indestructible on top of that is simply incomprehensible. Now, this is, according to the gold star here, a rare creature. At least that's as far as I understand. No, rarity, mythic, rare. So the odds of you ever coming across this are like insanely small. It would likely never ever come up in game. But the fact is that it could, and so there has to be something to prevent you from being just like the absolute master of the entire world. Or maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe you deserve it at that point if you manage to actually find something that's mythic rare. Point is, there's got to be something to stop this. Now, in the game, as PC Unicorn pointed out, there are technically two ways to do it. One of them is exile. However, exile being the only way to do it, I don't know how I feel about that. Or -1/-1 counters, which are they're not as reliable in my experience. I can leave it as is. But I have to emphasize that I'm inclined to nerf it. I'm inclined to nerf it real hard just because this is the kind of thing that, like, this right here, this Darksteel Colossus, this is the kind of thing that entire campaigns are built around. Like, one of the big things in Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder is, let me pull this up. I'm going to go to the bestiary, alphabetically T. And if you're familiar at all with Dungeons and Dragons, you know where I'm going. You know exactly where I'm going already. Oh, do they not have one here? Oh, no, I went past it. I misspelled it. It's T-A, not T-E. This is the Tarrasque. If you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, if you're an experienced player, you just felt a chill go down your spine. The Tarrasque is a legendary creature for a good reason. It is a CR 25 for a reason. I'm not going to go over all of its stats here. We're just going to come down to where it talks about the Tarrasque. Or it's not going to talk about the Tarrasque? Okay. I guess this is all we get. An immense reptilian beast that towers over the surroundings like a dinosaur, all teeth, horns, and claws, and thrashing spiked tail. Alright, so it's not going to tell us about it. I'm just going to have to go through all of its abilities. So here's the thing. There are all kinds of reasons why you as an adventurer are going to gather your party in the tavern and head out. Some are going to go out to explore, some are going to look for treasure, some have a noble cause that they're trying to uphold, and sometimes you just go out to kill one big fucking monster. And when you get done fighting dragons, when you get done fighting worms, when you get done fighting liches, you go hunting for the Tarrasque. The Tarrasque is an enormous beast, and when you go to fight this thing, you are basically walking into a losing situation. The Tarrasque scales deflect cones, lines, rays, and magic missile spells, rendering the Tarrasque immune to all such effects. So, no cones, no lines, no rays. That means that pretty much the only things that are going to even brush this thing are going to be things like Fireball that just plain explode. And that's just damaging spells. There's also a 30% chance that a deflected effect reflects back in full force at the caster. So use any magic at this, or use any magic target at this thing at your own risk. Which is to say, you just don't do it. It can jump, I don't care, but it can jump. You should care, because it can jump. Regeneration. No form of attack can suppress the Tarrasque regeneration. It regenerates even if disintegrated or slain by a death effect. If the Tarrasque fails a save against an effect that would kill it instantly, it rises from death 3 rounds later with 1 hit point if no further damage is inflicted upon its remains. It can be banished, which, to put this in Magic the Gathering terms, exiled, or otherwise transported as a means to save a region, but the method to truly kill it has yet to be discovered. Which is to say, there is only one way to kill a Tarrasque. There has only ever been one way to kill a Tarrasque, and that is the Wish or Miracle spell. Both of which do the same thing, just through different means. And essentially, you are asking the power of God to literally make this someone else's problem. And if you know, you know. This is not the kind of thing that you just run across, okay? This is the kind of monster that is literally the central focus of an entire campaign. Maybe you have a campaign where somebody has heard the rumors of the Tarrasque and they want to wake it up. And now you are on a quest to stop this person from waking it up. If you're a sufficiently high party, maybe they've already woken it up and now it's your task to stop the thing somehow. But the actual Tarrasque is the point of the campaign. It's not the kind of thing that's just going to show up. It's kind of like when we were doing the Warhammer module and we discussed Titans. The fact of the matter is, Imperial Knights are about the largest thing that you would ever see in that campaign. The reason being that there are the Emperor Titans. I mean, the Imperium has them. They are literally a city on legs with city-sized cannons. The kind of things that would even be a little bit unwieldy on a starship. The kind of things that can literally erase an entire city in a single shot. Not, you know, just like, oh, I'm going to drop this bomb on here and turn it into a glass bowl. It's like, no. One shot from this cannon and that city over there is a scorch marks that follows the curve of the planet. An Emperor Titan is not the kind of thing that you can actually play. It would actually be the set piece for the campaign. The campaign would take place on top of it, inside of it, something like that. And that's where we get to this Darksteel Colossus. There is no way that you can summon this thing. Like, if you did, there would be an entire campaign around just trying to stop the damn thing, because how could you? And that's a problem with Indestructible. See, if I was to make this just a regular 11-11 Colossus without the Indestructible, we can leave the trample. We can even keep if it would be removed from play, which if it would be put into the graveyard from play from anywhere, instead shuffle it into the owner's library instead. We can keep that. We can keep both those things. We just take out the Indestructible. This would still be an incredibly tough creature. Like, we're talking, this thing is going to have stats that are going to be... I don't even know yet. Because I don't know how we're going to be translating the stats yet. But even if it were just a... even if it was just... It got the bonuses from being, you know... a large creature. Or in this case, a colossal creature. Because for colossal... Does it show here? Yeah, here we go. Size modifier. So, the size modifier that you see here is the penalty that you take to, does it say? 1 of 4. So, yeah, this size modifier applies to its attacks and armor class. Special size modifier number 2. This applies to its combat maneuver bonus and combat maneuver defense. It also applies to things like strength and dexterity, because I believe that this is a -8 to dexterity, a +8 to strength and constitution. There's a lot of stuff here. It would at least still be fightable. But once you make it indestructible, this isn't a fight anymore. This is the kind of thing that it's going to come through. There's nothing you can do about it. Flee. And hope that God intervenes. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but you have to understand that this thing is one of the most unholy monsters ever. And we're going to take a fraction of this unholy spirit, and we're going to impart it into every single card that you see here. All of them. And this is just page 1. There are more. This is game-breaking. And I don't want to remove it strictly because it is a part of the game, and if if you like these creatures, like I love mirrors, okay? I really do. And if I was going to have a planeswalker in here and I wanted a Darksteel mirror and I was told that you can have your Darksteel mirror, but it won't be indestructible, I'd be pissed. I would be. So I'm not sure how we're going to make this work. I don't know. For the time being, I'm going to allow this in as... I'm going to allow this in as it is. I'm going to say creature takes no damage from outside sources and cannot be destroyed. But this is one that's like we're gonna have to come back to it. We're gonna have to revisit it at some point. There's just no other way. So, with that being said, I've already gone over my time here, so we're gonna have to wrap things up. Yeah, I didn't mean to spend so long on Indestructible. It's just, it's one of those things that, like, there are things that as a GM you come across and you have to give some really serious thought to. For example, there's lots of like templates out there for creatures and players. You can have a player who comes up and says, "Yeah, I want to play a character." It's like, okay, and what character is that? I want to play an elven outcast. It's like, all right, well that's fine. Why is your elf outcast? It's like, well, because I wanted to play a sorcerer. All right, an elven sorcerer is no big deal. I want my character to be half dragon. And it's like right there. As soon as they drop half dragon, you're like, okay, hold on. We all know that the half dragon template exists. But like, just because it exists does not mean it's the kind of thing that you get to just use. So I don't know how or what we're going to do with Indestructible. We'll have to wait and see on that one. I mean, there is a somewhat saving grace here that something like the Darksteel Mirror, well, it doesn't actually do any damage in Magic the Gathering. Its only role is pretty much as a blocker. But I don't know how much that's going to translate. It is expensive for what it does, which isn't much. But, I mean, even then, if you could summon an army of Darksteel Mirrors and then just command them to, like, drag people away, that's not doing damage. And there's nothing you can do to stop them. I mean, think of all the horrific things that you could do with a creature that just can't be stopped. We'll have to give this a lot more thought. For the time being, though, we're going to have to get out of here. So, thank you everyone who came today. It was good to see everybody. JP, PC Unicorn, always good to see you. If you want to see more of this and you want to see what else we do next, because there's a lot left. I mean, there's almost 200 of these keywords that we have to go through before we can even get back to doing things like our enchantments and stuff. Enchantments, sorceries, instants, things like that. We got to get through all these keywords first. It's going to take a while. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also in either Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, share these videos out with them because they'll probably enjoy it. If you like what I'm doing, you're just like me, leave a like on the video. If you want to leave comments down below, you can do that too. Or even better, if you want to leave more comments, you can just come to the Discord which I'm going to encourage you to do, because if you want to play this module or any of the other modules, you gotta join us there. So join the Discord, go to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what your availability is, let me know what your interest is, and I'll see what I can do for you. So look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to seeing you next time. And until that day comes, take care.